Well, let's move to the United Kingdom now, where the head of Zimbabwe's opposition movement for democratic change is meeting British government officials there. Presidential candidate Nelson Chamisa is calling for more to be done to ensure elections due to be held this year are free, fair and credible.
He's also meeting with Zimbabwean expatriates in a bid to lure them back home to help rebuild Zimbabwe's economy. To discuss hopes for the vote due by August 22nd and for the future of Zimbabwe, Nelson Chamisa sat down in London with the SABC's Paul Barber, who began by asking him what kind of reception that he'd received from British ministers.
Grateful to the people of the UK, the British people, for their relentless support and unflinching loyalty to the cause of Zimbabwe, particularly their support over the past 18 or so years of our struggle for democracy in Zimbabwe. And indeed, we have seen a lot of commitment to values, norms for democracy, for free and fair elections, for justice and freedom. And we do appreciate that gesture, but we've also underscored to them that they should continue to emphasize the need for democracy, and they should not in any manner or way move away from that position and then begin to focus on other side issues around economic stability at the expense of democracy. We need both. We need economic stability. We also need democracy. We also need to make sure that free and fair elections are held.
Commissioner to Zimbabwe has praised what they called ongoing reforms in Zimbabwe and said that the UK is seeking to normalise relations with the country. Do you believe those reforms are in fact taking place?
Well, I must say that that is part of the reason why we are here. We are making the clear case that the reforms have not been instituted. We still have a deficit in terms of the commitment. There's a huge gap between the words of the present government and the deeds of the present government. There's a yawning gap between the rhetoric that they are having and indeed the delivery point, the actions that we are seeing on the ground. There's clearly a very unconducive environment for elections. The road to elections is littered with landmines. What are the landmines? The first landmine are issues to do with just the date and the time of the elections. It's not clear to all the participating parties, the actors in the election, the political candidates, other than those in government, when the election is actually going to be held. Secondly, the landmine that is there is the issue of the printing of the ballot papers. It's not clear as to where the ballot paper is going to be printed, who is going to print it, and what is the security of that ballot paper. We are also worried about the issue of the role of the military in the civilian politics and civilian elections. We have raised this issue with Mr. Mnangagwa and his team. They seem not to be willing to engage in these issues. They do not understand that dialogue builds a nation. They do not understand that engagement and cross-pollination on ideas is what is good for the future of Africa and for the future of Zimbabwe.
So some really huge challenges ahead for Zimbabwe, the economy especially, which has halved in size since 2000. What message are you trying to get across ahead of these elections about what you would do if you are elected president?
My duty as a young leader, as a new leader, is to provide a platform for Zimbabweans to unleash their fullest of enterprise and entrepreneurship, for Zimbabweans to realize and unleash their greatest of their potential. I can tell you that given the opportunity, I am able to provide a platform for Zimbabweans to start to be on a path to transformation.
As you say, you are a young leader, you're a new leader. You stepped into some very big shoes, those of Morgan Tsvangirai, who passed away recently. How does that feel? Indeed,
I must say, it's not just the big shoes, it's also such a huge and heavy jacket that I'm putting on. But it's a challenge, but also an opportunity for us to define new policies, new politics, a fresh beginning, a new beginning in terms of alternative ideas in building our country. My confidence is in the support that we've been getting from the people. The momentum is huge. The electricity is unbelievable, incredible connection with the grassroots. And we are so excited that most of the voters are actually young people. These are millennials, young people, first-time voters who are excited, who want to explore certain opportunities, the generational a consensus that is there around the future of our country, realizing that we can actually be the game changers. This time, not using the bullet, but using the ballot.
So you are optimistic about your country's future?
The future, in fact, the future is very young, and it would be good to have a young president for that future. Otherwise, if you are to have Mr. Mnangagwa, who is 75 years old, yes, he must be resting. Yes, he belongs to the analog generation. You need a digital leader, and you don't doubt that I'm that digital leader.